You just spent $1.2 billion to open a hospital, and in 6 months, you're going to find out that healing people was never the part of this business that makes money. Today, you're going to see exactly what happens behind the doors of a modern hospital. The real numbers, the real pressure, and the real reason hospitals sell their own buildings just to survive. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why one of America's largest hospital chains collapsed doing exactly what you're about to do. Let's get into it. Level 1. The Dream. You're 47 years old. You spent 20 years as a healthcare administrator, climbing from department manager to regional director, watching other people run hospitals while you took notes on every decision they made, the good ones and the disastrous ones. Now, backed by a group of private investors who believe healthcare is recession-proof, you're finally opening your own hospital, a 200-bed general facility serving a fast-growing suburban region where the population has doubled in the last decade and the nearest major hospital is 40 minutes away. In your head, the math is straightforward. Patients come in, you treat them, insurance pays the bill, and you keep the difference. It sounds almost boring compared to the complexity you imagine exists in other industries. You have no idea how wrong that is. Level 2. The first number that breaks you. On your first week, your CFO walks into your office with a single figure that changes how you see the entire building. He doesn't waste time with pleasantries. He just puts a spreadsheet on your desk and taps one line. Every hospital bed you operate costs on average $1 million to build, equip, staff, and maintain over its full operational life. That number factors in construction and land, imaging equipment like MRI and CT scanners, ICU technology, specialized surgical tools, and the salaries of the nurses and technicians required to keep that single bed running safely 24 hours a day, every single day of the year. You do the math out loud and it hits you. You didn't buy a hospital. You bought $200 million worth of beds, and every single one of them only generates money when it's occupied by the right kind of patient, paying the right kind of insurance for the right kind of procedure. Level 3. The false sense of control. In the first few months, things look promising. Occupancy climbs steadily. You bring in a new orthopedic wing to serve the growing number of aging residents in the area. Your maternity ward gets a full renovation with private birthing suites, and total admissions rise 15% in a single quarter. On paper, everything looks healthy. The board is thrilled. Local news even runs a small feature about the state-of-the-art community hospital, bringing modern healthcare closer to families who used to drive an hour for basic care. You believe you've figured out the formula. More patients, more beds filled, more revenue. Simple growth. You haven't figured out anything yet. You've only seen the surface of a system built on something far more fragile than patient volume. Level 4. The weight of the real business. Here's the part almost nobody outside healthcare understands, and it's the part that's about to redefine everything you thought you knew about running this place. Hospitals don't make real money from most of the patients who walk through their doors. They make money from a specific narrow mix, a slice of profitable procedures and well-insured patients that ends up subsidizing everyone else. Your CFO breaks it down in painful detail. Medicare and Medicaid patients, government insurance programs that make up a massive share of your total admissions, reimburse the hospital at rates that often don't even cover the true cost of delivering that care. Every single Medicaid patient who gives birth in your newly renovated maternity ward is, on average, a financial loss for the hospital, sometimes by thousands of dollars per delivery. You survive because private insurance patients, a smaller slice of your total patient volume, pay significantly more for the exact same procedures, and that difference covers the gap left behind by everyone else. You just learned the real business model hiding underneath the mission statement on your hospital's front wall. A hospital isn't a place that heals people equally. It's a cross-subsidy machine, where some patients unknowingly pay for the care of others they'll never meet. Level 5. The operational trap. Running 24/7 medical operations is brutal in ways a normal business never has to deal with. You need registered nurses staffed around the clock, in every unit, no matter how many patients are actually occupying beds on any given night. Federal regulations mandate strict minimum nurse-to-patient ratios in critical care units, which means even during a slow week, you're paying full staffing costs for an ICU that's sitting half empty. Then there's your emergency room. By federal law, It cannot turn away a single patient who walks through those doors, insured or not, able to pay or not, citizen or not. That single legal requirement, which exists for good reason, also means your ER quietly absorbs losses on a significant share of every patient it treats, because you're required to provide care first and figure out payment afterward, sometimes long afterward, sometimes never. You start to understand that a hospital doesn't get to choose its customers the way most businesses do. It has to serve everyone and figure out the math later. Level 6, the case study that should have warned you. Trying to get ahead of problems before they happen, you start researching how hospital chains actually collapse in this country. And you find the story of Steward Health Care, once one of the largest privately owned for-profit hospital systems in the United States, operating dozens of facilities across multiple states. To raise fast capital, Steward sold off the land and buildings underneath its own hospitals to real estate investment trusts, then leased those exact same buildings back at massive fixed annual rent payments. It's a financial move called sale-leaseback, and for a while, it worked beautifully. Cash came in immediately, and operations continued as normal. But the rent obligations kept climbing every year, completely disconnected from how much revenue the hospitals were actually generating. Combined with the exact same reimbursement gap you're now facing firsthand, those fixed rent payments eventually pushed the entire company into bankruptcy, closing hospitals across several states and leaving entire communities without a single functioning emergency room nearby. You close the article and realize you're staring at a mirror of your own hospital's balance sheet, just a few years ahead of schedule. Level 7, the isolation. 2 years into operating your hospital, insurance companies across your entire region renegotiate reimbursement rates downward, citing rising costs on their own end. At almost the exact same time, a nationwide nursing shortage hits your area especially hard, forcing you to hire traveling nurses through staffing agencies at nearly triple the hourly cost of your regular full-time staff, just to maintain legally required patient ratios. Your board, made up of the same investors who once praised your growth numbers, starts asking harder and harder questions in every quarterly meeting. They invested expecting the steady, recession-proof returns that healthcare is famous for. Instead, they're staring at shrinking margins, rising labor costs, and a CFO who keeps using the word unsustainable. You're the one standing in that boardroom, expected to explain, calmly and with data, why a business built entirely around saving human lives is quietly bleeding cash every single month. Level 8, the impossible choice. You reach a point where you have 3 paths in front of you, and none of them feel right, morally or financially. First, cut the services that consistently lose the hospital money, no matter how badly your community needs them. Maybe close the maternity ward entirely, maybe shut down psychiatric and behavioral health care. The 2 departments hemorrhaging the most cash relative to their reimbursement rates. Second, sell your hospital's own land and buildings to a real estate investment trust and lease them back, exactly like Steward Health Care did, trading long-term stability for a large, immediate cash infusion. Third, aggressively expand elective procedures, hip and knee replacements, cosmetic surgery, advanced imaging services, the profitable side of medicine that wealthier, well-insured patients actively seek out and pay for directly, often scheduling them months in advance. You choose the third option. It's the path that keeps every department of the hospital open and every job intact. It's also, quietly, the exact moment you stop thinking like someone who built a hospital to heal a community and start thinking like an operator chasing margin, department by department, procedure by procedure. Level 9, the real cost. The hospital survives. Elective procedures fill your best-paying beds consistently, your revenue stabilizes, and the financial reports you present to your board every quarter finally look solid again. On paper, by every conventional financial metric, you did everything right. But personally, you understand something that no medical school, no hospital administration textbook, and no orientation seminar ever prepared you for. The hospital you built with the intention of serving an underserved community has become, in practice, a business that structurally optimizes for profitable diagnoses over urgent human need, not because you're a bad person, and not because you stopped caring, But because the entire reimbursement system, built the way it is, leaves administrators like you no other realistic way to keep the doors open. You start to notice it in small ways, how quickly elective surgery patients get scheduled compared to how long emergency room patients wait, how much more attention certain well-insured cases get in scheduling meetings. Nobody says it out loud. Nobody has to. Level 10. The cycle. Years later, you read an article about a young physician-turned-entrepreneur raising millions in venture capital to open a brand new community hospital in another growing suburban region. In every press interview, he repeats the same phrase with total conviction: patients over profit. He genuinely believes healthcare is simply about treating people who need help, using the resources available to do the most good possible. He has no idea he's about to inherit a business where every single bed is $1 million bet, where every patient who walks through the front door is either quietly subsidizing the care of someone else in another wing, or being subsidized by them, without either patient ever knowing the other exists. He thinks he knows what he's getting into. He doesn't. CTA. If this changed how you look at your own hospital bill, that's exactly the point. Subscribe and hit the bell, because next week we're breaking down another business that isn't what it looks like on the surface. Closing new POV every week. See you in the next one.